Have you ever been playing an old video game, finding yourself sitting back, relaxed, and realizing, this game I just downloaded for $5, or for free sometimes, is better than all of the games I've spent $60 on this year? Because I do, pretty often nowadays. It's very odd to get your hands on something that's labeled old and clunky by modern standards, only to realize that counterintuitively, modern standards are particularly low. I only recently started to recognize this as I'm fairly young, in my early 20s, and beyond a few early 2000s titles, I hadn't played many old games. Online dialogues have always kept me away from trying things due to fear of, I don't know, clunk, I suppose? If you're new here, well, welcome, howdy ho, I'm Sir Schmib. You may not know that I am a big fan of the Elder Scrolls. Surprisingly though, until last month I had only ever played the 3 most recent games in the series. I'd never touched Arena or Daggerfall, but was finally convinced to try them. I've learned much from finally trying these 2 relics out. Well, not very much, but I've learned a little. Specifically, I learned that there is a lot I love about old video games, but I couldn't quite figure out what that was exactly. All I knew was that I really enjoyed every game I've played and considered old, namely Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, Morrowind, Fable 1, and of course the games that made me realize this, Arena and Daggerfall. So, I played another, Ultima 4, Quest of the Avatar, and then I tried Chrono Trigger, and a few more after. It then dawned on me that despite the genres being vastly different, all these games shared something. Something that I feel has been lost on modern gaming. This something, I'll continue calling it, can be felt throughout every aspect of all the old games I've mentioned. It is in the mechanics, pleasantries, ideas, and expectations that I suppose used to be commonplace in games. There is a complexity and character. Nifty little relationships seem to have existed between the game studios and their players. Something like a respect. A thing that as a modern gamer I have never experienced, and I wish this old custom saw a return. Modern games might have the graphics and tight gameplay we dreamed of seeing decades past, but they lost a lot of personality and depth along the path to please more casual audiences. There has been a lot of innovation in gaming over the years, and I won't foolishly claim that all of those changes have been bad. This video isn't a doomsday essay about how devoid of hope the modern world is. I have another video about that, so go check that out if you want to complain about modern depravity with me. I recognize that gameplay-wise, this medium sees constant improvement, especially when looking back at the old keyboard-only days. Indie games also mostly avoid what I'm referencing today. What I'm really referring to is the AAA marketplace, and the heart and soul of its games. The ideologies that craft them, and their ability to stand as individual titles, crowned by their own merit. I've narrowed this down to 2 things in particular that define games in this way that are lacking overall in the modern industry. That being ingenuity and respect. What I mean by ingenuity is pretty straightforward. Games all kind of feel the same. The number one thing I've noticed when digging up older games to try them out is how alien the controls, UI, and even the gameplay progression is to me. This is because back in the day, there wasn't an industry standard for how UI should look and behave. Every studio had their own ideas and implementation, and at least for me, part of the fun of trying out old games is seeing the creative way these systems were all implemented. For example, I recently beat Arx Fatalis, the first game made by a pretty small company you may have heard of, Arcane Studios. Arx Fatalis is incredibly special to experience. Not only is the setting interesting, but in order to get good at the game, you'll have to wrap your head around multiple mechanics unique to the title. You want to make a healing potion? There's no walking up to an alchemy bench and clicking what you want here. You need to harvest the resource, grind it into powder, combine that with a bottle, and finally use that on a still to get the desired potion. You want to cast a spell? Well, don't bother opening your inventory to click Fireball, because that is just a bag and isn't simply text you can click to equip things. In order to cast a Fireball, you'll need to find runes which individually spell out the magic of the universe. In this case, you'll want Yuk, and Tar, which translates to Create Fire Projectile. Once you have the runes, you must actively draw them by hand and memory on screen in order to cast the spell. These systems alone made playing Arx Fatalis worth it, as I wasn't just sold another game trying to copy Skyrim's or The Witcher 3's systems and successes. I was sold a unique and creative experience. Arcane Studios went on to create the beloved Dishonored series, with gameplay that holds up to this day. Again, Dishonored had unique systems and design that was not only interesting, but also pushed us to be creative in the way that we solved its problems. You can say the same thing about Prey, which they released in 2017. But where did Arcane end up? Now, this video isn't about the failure of Redfall and other specific titles, because quite honestly, I'm not qualified to talk about those things. I can tell you that I think industry corporate giants in suits pushed things in poor directions into failure, which, when paired with a generation of writers who seem to care more about inserting themselves into things than creating believable characters, is likely the case. But that's mostly my opinion. I can pose the question though. Why does this keep happening? Why can I pay $5 for a game from 2002 and get what might as well be new systems as I've never seen them before, or pay $40 for a known industry flop? Or, am I reading this right? $70 for a game that's hardly evolved from the experience I had in 2012? Every new game has the same systems, the same quest design, the same map and magic design. The only difference is the game's shell, meaning what we see graphically on the outside. It seems to me that the industry at large has gotten comfortable. It is a tale as old as time that struggle prompts action. When you are starving to death, well, you go find something to eat. Or in this sense, when you are failing as a company or simply want to see greater success, create something no one has seen before, so people simply want to see it. I'm not claiming that this isn't happening at all. I mean, this year, we got Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which has redefined what my expectations are for modern RPGs. And Expedition 33 has emotionally moved players all over the world. But these games are exceptions. This year's Game Awards is proof of that, as Expedition 33 was supposedly so much better than literally everything else released this year that it swept up nearly every category. This turnout is seemingly a response to the absolute lack of creativity from the last decade, and both of these titles' successes show how starved for ingenuity the marketplace is. Now, all of that is very important, but the industry's lack of respect is much more abundant and impactful, in my opinion. It's also not as easy to define, as it manifests in multiple forms. So, in order to avoid arguing over semantics, I've summed things up into 3 categories: respect for the player's time, wallet, and most importantly, their intelligence. We've all heard these first 2 points plenty of times recently, so I don't want to waste too much time going over them again. Games don't respect players' time by adding plenty of systems that are designed to keep us engaged and to an extent unhealthily addicted. I'm talking quests involving collectibles or experience caps that require minimal effort but lots of time to complete, and reward the player with the dopamine hit of a bar reaching 100% in flashy colors. People realize that they can profit off of addiction in this industry, so rather than deliver us quality and substance, they deliver us fuzzy brain feelings. Next is respect for our wallets. This is of course influenced by what I just mentioned, meaning that rather than pay for new experiences, we're often paying for brain fuzzy. Further than this though, market tactics that had people in uproar 20 years ago are now commonplace. People complained about Oblivion's horse armor, but are now paying extra for quote-unquote premium pre-order collector's editions versions of games that promise future DLCs and access to cosmetics and single player. The industry knows that people will pay, so they sell. The people that can't or won't pay for such things are left wondering why the market price of games and the inclusion of microtransactions is slowly increasing. Yada yada, we've heard it all before. Unfortunately, there isn't too much we can do about these things. The market will always chase the dollar, so complaining is probably superfluous. What I will complain about, though, is the last thing I mentioned. That is, respect for players' intelligence. When you play old games, a lot of the time you don't know what is going on unless you use that noggin and think about it. You aren't told exactly where to go in quests. You aren't told where and how to improve weapons and skills. You are expected to practice and learn new systems, learn the way that this game in particular is speaking to you. I understand that not every player likes that kind of gameplay that I'm describing. Some people like more streamlined experiences, but that's not what I'm referring to here. I'll put it like this. Have you recently watched a kids movie, where the characters are solving a puzzle or encounter a problem, and turn to each other unintuitively and painfully explain exactly what is going on? Like the villain busts in the ceiling and the main characters turn to each other and one says, "Oh no! Now that Dr. Zillywag is here, we won't be able to finish what we were doing." This is done primarily because kids are stupid and won't know what's going on unless everything is explained to them. Or in other words, there is no respect for their intelligence because the writers know that they are dumb. So many video games nowadays are written exactly like this.
The elven gods, the creatures that escaped.
Of the evil elven gods. The elven gods Elganon and Gillenane have escaped from Fen'Harel's prison.
The gods have returned.
Elven gods escape from their prison.
The player is never required to actually think about what is going on to solve problems. We hardly ever get introduced to new systems that may be challenging at first, but are rewarding and fun to master. I'm currently playing through Gothic, and the developers expect the player to be intuitive about every aspect of its gameplay, which is abundantly clear while learning its combat. Different keys allow you to attack from different directions, experimenting with which may lead to new combos, which may be effective against certain enemies, but while fighting others, the same combo may be impossible to pull off. You are also totally unskilled when you first start the game, and gaining levels and experience alone isn't enough to magically get better. You must actively seek out trainers, pay them, and get this, listen to their advice to improve in skill, because they tell you useful information in their dialogue that you can translate to your gameplay. Recently, I reviewed the Elder Scrolls Arena, and towards the end of that review, I said something that I'd like to reiterate here. When you launch an older game, there is a sense of respect for the player that the devs programmed in. Similar to the way FromSoft develops games with a respect for players' skill. In the past, it seems, studios developed games around a sense of respect for the player's intelligence. The games may be hard and communicate very little to you, but reading through the manuals and practicing their unique systems, you'll realize that it's only hard because the devs know that you are capable of figuring it out. And when you do, it feels great. Now, I feel like this video is dragging on at this point, and I don't normally like to tread on negative topics. I've just been playing a lot of older games recently, and feel like I've wasted a lot of money paying for new ones, and felt that maybe some of you would feel the same. Either way, I'll end this here with a quote from Arcane Studios found within Arx Fatalis' manual, which is very telling and sums up my point. A few words from the developers. Arx Fatalis has been dear to our hearts for many years. It was the project that inspired us to found Arcane Studios. Arx was not created solely to make us a lot of money. It was created because we are gamers and have a genuine passion for games that carry us off into dreams of lost worlds. As far as the philosophy of the game is concerned, we see Arx Fatalis as a profound role-playing adventure. So lean back, relax, and start exploring the world of Arx Fatalis. And don't forget to take time to experiment. Arx Fatalis is full of surprises, both small and large, that are just waiting to be discovered. We hope that you enjoy the world of Arx. We put our hearts, minds, and a lot of work into its creation. From the team. Now, before you go, I'd like to bring up an idea that's been banging around my head recently. I've been really enjoying diving into older games, but have noticed that it's actually a bit hard to find good information about them. Whether it's a manual lost to time, or install or mod questions, or anything else. So I was thinking, why not set up a Discord for channel members, primarily for trying out old RPGs together? We'd vote for and focus on one a month or so and compare our journeys and experience, and give mod and patch information to each other. And also just help each other out when we're stuck. I was thinking about calling it RPG Archaeology. We'd focus primarily on old RPGs, of course, since that's what I love. Anything like the games I mentioned in this video. If that seems like something you'd want to do, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll figure out how to get that working if there's enough of you. I would set it up so that any tier of member could join, so it'd just be like $1 or $2 to get in the Discord. Thank you all for watching this video, and a huge thank you and shout out to my channel members. I got a new member last week, GotNick3527. You are a legend. For now, I have been Sir Schmib. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Until next time.